Welcome into the bonus waiver show. Yeah, this used to be part of the main Monday Mayhem show, but I think I will be doing them as little bonus segments from now on, the waiver wire section. It's just a little bit easier to separate it from the main show. Also a little easier for you guys, the listeners, just to get my waiver picks out there. Especially because I feel like, every time I look at waivers, it's always the same dudes. It's like obviously Devon Asian and Tank Dell are going to be on everyone's top priority waiver list. They are on mine too, but I tend to go a little bit deeper because they play in a lot of deeper leagues. So I really do try to strive for like waiver ads that are a little bit less obvious than the consensus norm. So we'll start here with quarterbacks and Mr. Jordan Love. I am in love with Love. Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love is absolutely crushing it. He's had basically 25 fantasy points in 3 straight games now. So in shallower leagues, if he's still available on your waiver wire, especially if you're like a Justin Fields manager, for example, run and go pick him up. I will be trying to get him in Megala Bowl, for example. CJ Stroud is going to be a hot pickup for quarterback. Again, shallower leagues, Brock Purdy, but also keep an eye on Baker Mayfield and how he performs tonight against the Eagles. If he can survive that front seven and dice up their cornerbacks, I think Baker Mayfield is a good streaming option just rest of season with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Cade Otton and Rachaad White. He's actually got weapons around him. It's a decent team. They might be better than we expected. So keep an eye on Baker Mayfield. And again, in like shallower leagues, he could be an ad. In super flex leagues, if Andy Dalton starts again, you could do worse. So Andy Dalton might actually be an ad too. For running backs, Devon Achane is an absolute 100% fab dump. If Jerome Ford was a fab dump last week, Devon Achane is definitely a fab dump this week, and hopefully you did not blow your wad on Jerome Ford last week, and you're able to compete for Devon Achane if he's on your waiver wire. A lot of the leagues I'm in, I just had him stashed on the end of my bench. I didn't just cut him because of the healthy scratch. I'm generally less reactionary, I guess, for fantasy football. I try to stash guys maybe a little bit longer sometimes than I should, but then in the case of a Devon Achane, it works out tremendously where I'm not having to go dump my entire fab on him. There is one of my major leagues, though, where I'm hurting at running backs. He is on the waiver, and I have a max bid in, so hopefully that goes through. And then for like deeper ads, because it's ugly out there for running backs, CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is like back from the dead all of a sudden in a gross 3-way rotation for the Chiefs running backs. But if you keep seeing the same kind of work, maybe it's because Isaiah Pacheco is a little more banged up than we think. So just keep an eye on that. He could be a deep stash / gross flex option in deeper leagues, or if you're really struggling with injuries. Rico Dowdle for the Dallas Cowboys, definitely someone who should be stashed in leagues. Tony Pollard is getting a crazy amount of work, but Rico Dowdle seems to have secured that backup job. He had a touchdown in the game against the Cardinals, kind of vultured it from Tony Pollard. He's seeing receiving work out of the backfield, so he's definitely like a handcuff that you want to own, not necessarily even if you're the Tony Pollard owner. Just that's how bad running backs have already been. He should probably be a deep stash. And getting really gross with it, Zeke probably should be more owned in some shallower leagues. And the really gross one is Latavius Murray. It reminds me of like Mike Tolbert back in the day, the touchdown vulture. 2 straight weeks now with a touchdown, the goal line touchdown. He's getting the goal line work. He's who we all thought Damian Harris was going to be. So Latavius Murray in like very deep leagues, you can throw him, as kind of like a flyer or stash. Like I'm forced to start him. It's like if you're in a league where you're choosing, Latavius Murray or Melvin Gordon, I legitimately had to make that decision, or like Craig Reynolds or someone along those lines. Latavius Murray's going to fall in for touchdowns with this Bills team. For the wide receivers, the hotness is going to be Quentin Johnston because of the unfortunate Mike Williams injury, but I would actually be targeting Joshua Palmer. Palmer was much more effective. He had the touchdown. He's been much more involved. He's been with the team longer. It just seems like, Quentin Johnston has struggled to kind of emerge when it was the 3 wide receivers ahead of him. And even with just Keenan Allen and Joshua Palmer, it's questionable to see what kind of, role Quentin Johnston is able to develop. But like for right now, it's Joshua Palmer pretty clearly for me over Quentin Johnston. So if I'm putting in my fab bids, I'm definitely putting in a lot more on Palmer than I am putting it on Quentin Johnston. But Tank Dell should be the priority. 100%. He, for me, is like the main target, I feel like, for the wide receivers. I do really like Marvin Mims. I also really like Josh Downs. They are definitely going to be hot targets for me. DJ Chark, if he was dropped in any of your leagues or if he's on waivers, he only had the 4 receptions for 80-ish yards and a touchdown, but man, he had 11 targets in that game. And as long as Andy Dalton stays in, it's a boost to the wide receivers. So DJ Chark could be worth a deep add and some flex appeal. You also have Calvin Austin, who popped for a long one. He's a deep stash. And Michael Wilson, I also really like as a deep stash for the Arizona Cardinals. He's just like a talented big body wide receiver. He had a really long catch. He had like 2 for 80 yards or something like that. Not someone I'm looking to start or anything in any capacity, but if I'm in a very deep league and I can throw him on the end of my bench just to kind of wait and see if Kyler Murray does in fact come back, maybe Michael Wilson develops into something during the season. And again, these are kind of like guys where I'm just throwing them on the end of my bench so that if they pop off, like Tank Dell already has, for example, well, then you have the luxury of A, looking smart, and B, avoiding the waiver rush. For tight ends, it's always gross. Luke Musgrave and Jake Ferguson, the rookies for Green Bay and Dallas, respectively. If you're able to get your hands on them, they're pretty good stashes. Noah Fant for Seattle, 2 straight games with 4 receptions. It's that gross for tight ends that, 4 for 40, 4 for 50, you could do worse. Keep an eye, though, on Cole Turner for the Washington Commanders. He seems to have a connection with Sam Howell. He had 7 targets in the game, went 4 for 35. And then Gerald Everett and Donald Parham. Everett in PPR leagues is like a low-level play. Parham, though, as the TD vulture, the touchdown vulture, he's just so big and tall. That seems to be his role in the red zone. For defense, if you're going to stream defense next week, the Cincinnati Bengals will be on the road against the Tennessee Titans, who look myopic on offense. The Seattle Seahawks struggled, but they will get the New York Giants, who have looked pretty terrible as of late. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they still have a pretty good defense. They potentially will have a revenge game against Jameis Winston, which could be super entertaining. And we all know with Jameis Winston, he could easily throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns while also throwing 4 interceptions. So the defense seems like it's probably a safe play. And hey, kickers are people too. Brandon Aubrey for the Cowboys, Matt Gay for Indianapolis, and Dustin Hopkins for the Cleveland Browns. They have done well. They have good matchups coming up. If you need a kicker, go out and grab those guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully these waivers help you destroy your leagues like Loki destroyed this guy.
Apoplectic. You put out an open contract. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. There's the bell.
That's not even relevant. I just really want to fit that knockout in. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. Catch you all on the flip side. Super kick that bell. Get notified for Wildcard Wednesday coming soon. This week we have an awesome guest at Fantasy Blue Chip, Jagger May. Make sure also that you tune in for Thursday Thriller when we recap and review all of the Week 4 NFL action. Get you ready for fantasy football for next week. Get those teams turned around. Hey, if you're 0-3, never give up, never surrender. And again, Sunday live stream right before all the games kick off. Sunday mornings, I go live to help you with all your start-sit decisions. So once again, drop an elbow on that sub, super kick that bell, make sure you get notified, and catch you on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody